You may have seen that ancient representation of the Good Shepherd, which is in the catacombs. The sheep is on the shoulders, and in the context of the catacombs, it makes a lot of sense, for they are associated with the souls going on unto glory, led, of course, by that same shepherd that we all have. If we are Christian, we have ipso facto a share in the ministry of saving souls. We are concerned. Each soul before me is an immortal gem and can go this way or that way. The only thing is that this way or that way is kind of important, because if it goes the wrong way at the moment of death, it's got a long time to wait. Indeed, eternity, if it hasn't made it. Now just close your eyes for a second and think what that moment could be. Right now, the soul at this very moment in time, and there's bound to be somewhere, someone dying, that soul is opening the eyes of its inner being on the beyond and facing it head on for the first time. And that soul has not taken life seriously. And it's in a state of mortal sin, it's away from God, it's pushed God away and all his graces, and now it's faced for the first time with the consequences. Now, just for a second, imagine what that would be. A soul actually who genuinely has said no to all the pools of grace, and right now is facing eternity and realizing it will never see God and will have to go as far as possible from God. And so it'll cast itself in eternal loss, hell, bad company, demons, lost souls, forever! Do you mind? Do you think that that is something indifferent to be poked fun at? Do you think that the noise of this world is the last word? This is the last word. Eternity. This is the leaving cert. This is the final exam, the only one that matters. This way or that way. So whatever people say or try to say about our faith, be calm. No one can escape the issue. All they can do is poke fun at it because they can't face it. There was, way back, a general in the French army. He was actually a Protestant. But one day he was touched by a powerful grace which came from a simple but clear explanation of what the Catholic position was. Now, because of his Protestant faith, he was a man of uprightness and genuine goodwill. That's the bit, genuine goodwill. I'll come back to that in a second. And so he became a Catholic. He also had a zeal for souls and tried to persuade others who were of his previous faith to follow him into the Catholic faith. The only thing was that the person closest to him, his own wife, was not budging. Now, there's a problem there because you've got two possible scenarios here. One, that person genuinely did believe in the faith of her own fathers, Protestant, or, and this is the problem, that faith was actually becoming a little bit weak and she was starting to intuit there might be something here, so she's becoming aggressive and pushing it away. Now that happens. You start talking to some Protestants and you'll find that reaction, as though they're afraid. Why? Why are we afraid of the Catholic Church? Is it in itself a secret mission? And it can be precisely an indication of bad faith. You know that in the case of Newman, when he comes through in his apology, a point comes when it's no longer a game. He comes to a realization, I'm beginning to see something here, and I can't now actually easily stay where I am and save my soul. Every sin against the truth, against faith, directly, is in theology mortale totius generis sui, mortal in all its kind, as is everything directly against chastity. It's the same gravity. Now, he therefore is with his wife. He has tried his best, and at this point she is about to die. He had, as it happens, close to him 4 pious Irish ladies, and they were actually at his service. So, with tears in his eyes, he turned to them. My friends, you know my wife is a Protestant and that she is unwilling to hear the Catholic religion spoken of. She is going to die in her obstinacy. Now, he goes on, indicating his fear that her soul might be lost. I shudder at the thought of such a misfortune. So he wants at all costs to prevent it. His last weapon, therefore, is prayer with fear and trembling before the High King with these simple Irish women. They pray for an hour together. Then the general went to the bed of the invalid and discovered her in a sort of coma, out of her senses, without consciousness. At the end of some time, returning to herself and looking at her husband, she said to him in a very intelligible voice, "Call a Catholic priest." He thought at first that she was delirious and made her repeat what she just said. "I beg for a Catholic priest without delay." "But my dear, you would not have one." General, I am entirely changed. God has shown me hell and the place that awaited me in the eternal fire if I did not become a Catholic. So the sick woman had the happiness of returning to the bosom of the Church. She even recovered her health and lived afterwards as a fervent Catholic. Some years ago, there was a case in reverse in France. It was a lady who had great faith, but was married to a very clever man, a doctor and a scientist, but who had no faith. There was a good human bond, but nothing on the level of faith. Nothing she could do would change his attitude. At a certain point, she started to become ill, and her health very quickly declined. and she died. And the husband found in a place which was obviously meant to be the place where he was meant to find it after her death, and it was this. The lady was making a pact with Almighty God. She was making the sacrifice of her life. This was now way before she became ill. She offered her life for the conversion of her husband. At that point, the virile man collapsed emotionally and realized what love meant and came back to the practice of his faith completely. But actually there was more, because in that pact on the paper she had asked for a lot. She was making the sacrifice of her life, wanting therefore to be a victim and die, even though at the point she was not ill at all. That not only would her husband be converted, but also become, I think it was specifically, a Dominican priest because of his intellect. He looked at this and he applied to Dominicans. Years later, the young, at that time, Father Fulton Sheen was on retreat with the Dominicans, and the last lecture in that week of lectures was by this priest, who concluded the week of lectures with his personal testimony. He was the priest. Do you know that one moment in time can change the whole balance for all eternity, between this way and that way, and one of those two ways means hell forever. You've all heard, I think, what happened in around 1947 in America, in the electric chair. It was Jim Hughes, who was a Catholic, lapsed and wouldn't hear of God. They tried to calm him down because he was in an awful state. The priest couldn't get near to him, so the doctor tried to, and he was spat upon. Jim Hughes, in the electric chair, blasphemed horribly, cursed, and they were about to apply the current which would send him into eternity. And just before they did so, he screamed, "Ah! Get me a priest!" The priest was there, hidden, because he had to be by law present, came up to him in the electric chair. He heard his confession. He went back to his place. The sheriff whispered in the priest's ear, "What made him change?" "I don't know. Didn't ask him." "Well, if you don't, I will. I won't sleep a wink all week if I don't know what happened." So the sheriff went right next to the electric chair, whispered kindly in his ear, "Jim, what made you change?" And sitting there, strapped up, he replied, "Do you know that Negro I hated? Claude. He is standing there. And behind him, with her hands on his shoulders, is the Blessed Virgin Mary. And Claude said to me, 'Jim, our Blessed Lady has obtained this favour for you. I offered my sacrifice for your conversion.' He had already just been sent in the same electric chair to glory. What had happened was this. Our Lady, in answer to his sacrifice, had obtained for him, for Jim, the grace of, wait for it, seeing his place in hell. I screamed because I just saw my place in hell. That, my friends, is the reality of death. It's not automatic pie in the sky when you die. It's a serious business, far more serious than the leaving cert or the final exam at university. It's the only exam that is irreversible and really counts. Forever!
Speak.